This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hi, Neal. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Anytime you get the first live NFL game in the books, and the flash bets worked almost flawlessly last night, and all the content and seeing all the bets come in is just rewarding for all the preparation that we did getting ready for the season. And it seems like my job's never ending with looking for new content, new features, and keeping up with all the technology that they're throwing at us in the sports betting world.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did it go last night? Was it overwhelming or underwhelming? What was with the Kansas City-Detroit game?
Well, I am very, very pleased. We did more than double what we did on the opening NFL game last year. And we saw that same for last weekend with college football. We did over double what we did the previous year before, which is right at where we projected because, this is our second year of online sports betting. And I have to do things like budgets and project what we're going to do. And it's lining up real nicely with year two of the other operators and the modeling that we did. So, and it doesn't help that we get almost 70% of the Arkansas market share. That's very, very flattering. And our system being able to hold that type of volume was a nail biter because we added a lot of server space this year. But, hey, all that prep work that you go, just like when you practice for a good season, all the prep work that we did has made our opening weekend for college and NFL ready to go.
Big numbers on the lines for the first two Arkansas games, and a little jarring to see that the line is there's a bigger spread against Kent State there was against Western Carolina. Do you find that some bettors are a little afraid of that big number, or are they just going at it because it's Arkansas?
No, last week we didn't have as much on our Arkansas game as we would on a typical Arkansas game when we have an SEC matchup. Part of that is the game was at noon, therefore it was less time for people to get bets in, and people don't like betting those big point spreads. I mean, I don't like taking the team minus 38 points, personally myself. So a lot of your bettors will shy away from that. And if, I know you never want to bet against your team, but, sometimes the point spreads, we may be wrong on it, and you may need to go the other way. It doesn't mean that you want your team to lose. Your team's not going to win by 38 points or more sometimes. So that's something that you have to make a decision on yourself. But people do shy away from the bigger lines because, anything can happen, especially when you're playing an FCS opponent.
There's so many other things that you can put money on to enjoy the game that doesn't have anything to do with the point spread,
yeah.
right? I mean, you got the flash bets kind of at that point, that makes the whole experience different, and all of the prop bets too. And so, I mean, we talk so much about the spread, but that's just a tiny little piece of it.
We're starting to see upwards of, like last night, we're about 10% of our bets last night on the game last night were flash bets, which is good. We're seeing an increased participation with that. With college football, flash bets are really great because you do have a lot more lopsided games in college football. So if the game score may not be interesting to you, the individual series and the individual plays may be more interesting to you. And if you're watching a game like that, the flash bets are just catered right for that, where you can engage with the game. And again, we're talking you can make bets as low as $1. We don't want anybody to bet their farm on anything like this. It's supposed to be entertaining and fun, but you can engage with the game with those flash bets. And that content that we're putting out there is pretty impressive because we've had flash bets on 2 FCS games in a row, which usually don't happen. And the reason that happened is because Arkansas basically is our pro team in this state.
Neal, the big one this week. What do y'all have? Texas at Alabama, and where's the money coming in on?
Well, Texas and Alabama is just the Texas and Alabama game this week. Let me look and see what the line is on that one right there. But the one I want you to ask me about when we're done with this one is ask me about this Colorado thing. I mean, it's kind of interesting. But let me see where we got the Texas-Alabama game at right now. I'm having to scroll through. There are so many games. I think we have. Let's see. On Saturday, we only have 30 games already listed before the extra boards come up. But it's Texas A&M and Miami, and I'm sorry. There's so many games. Here we go. We got the Alabama minus 7.5. The money line is Alabama minus 275. The over and under is 53.5. Seeing only 7.5 against Texas, that's nice seeing smaller lines against Texas, especially with the SEC. But yeah, everybody, it's funny. When we saw the LSU game, we had more money on LSU. I think they were betting SEC versus ACC more on that particular game, and that's probably what's going to happen with the Texas-Alabama game too.
Well, nobody would have thought that the Colorado versus Nebraska gets more action than any NFL game of the weekend. I saw this story on ESPN. BetMGM reported Colorado-Nebraska has more action than any NFL game. In what reality has that ever happened?
Oh, I know. And it's, you know what? It's not the same on BetSaracen, but it's close. I will tell you this. This was even on Wednesday. We were looking at ourselves and we have never had a liability on a college football game that didn't have the word Arkansas in it that high on a Wednesday ever before. And the money is still pouring in on that particular game. And it's not all lopsided on Colorado. There's some diversity in the bets that we're seeing there. I think, if you go 2 weeks ago, Nebraska was an 8-point favorite in that game. Now they're a 3.5, 4-point dog. I think, what was it, 2.5 now? Let's see where it's moved. Let's see. Yeah, 2.5. You were getting Nebraska, Colorado plus 8 before last week's game, and that's incredible.
But are Arkansas bettors also, putting money on this game too? I mean, I wouldn't. Is it more than you would expect? I guess from Arkansas bettors.
Yeah, it is more than what I would expect, but that just shows you the media cycle and the hype around a situation will drive the betting action. And it doesn't necessarily make sense. No one would have been talking Colorado this year if Deion wouldn't have gone. And what he did after he got there by basically recycled the entire team. And if you use the first game's results, I mean, he was a master of the transfer portal. I mean, it probably is the single biggest feat that I've ever seen with the transfer portal to turn around what he had. But, it's just one game. So keep that in mind when you bet. That they are still college kids, and anything can happen in a betting game.
And I mean, apparently they're getting more bets for Colorado to win a national title than Ohio State or Georgia. Again, this is where I continue to think to myself, like, what reality are we living in here? It's the celebrity that's taking over. Like the Colorado story, even if you remove Deion Sanders from it, is a great story. A coach comes in and brings in all these players, and then you add in the other aspect to it that it is Deion Sanders. There just is a little bit of over effusiveness in what's going on, and that's the point I tried to make on Monday. One game, yep. They didn't win a Big 12. They didn't win a Pac-12. They equaled their win total from the year before, and I get it. I kind of do get it, but at the same time, I'm also like crossing my eyes. Yeah.
Phil, one of the things I like to say, and I do a lot of media because of the success of BetSaracen, is don't take your betting advice necessarily from your bookmaker, and you may not also always want to take your betting advice from the hype in the group think. I mean, and that's true a lot of areas. What I want people to do is when they are betting on this site, if they are a casual bettor, I want them to bet reasonably what they want to bet on and what they're interested on, and not just go with what everybody else is doing. There's a reason why sports books make money. It's because it is hard picking these games. Anything can happen in a game, and just because something happened last week doesn't mean that lightning is always going to strike. The trend bettors, you can do well doing that if your trend happens, but if it doesn't happen, it can be very, very costly for you. So when you are sports betting, look at it as entertainment. Now, if you're the serious sports bettor, you're not going to fall into all of that hype. You're going to look at it in a more analytical and a more data-driven, like I like to look at these games. But for the recreational player out there, and that's the majority of our business, is recreational, fun play. Don't get caught up in the moment and don't get caught up with the group thing. Make your own decision, and that way the game can be funner for you too.
Neal, did anything go off the board with the NFL season starting, or do you still have the same NFL futures available?
There's a few things that came off the board that surrounded that game, but we do have a lot of the futures still up. We keep them up as long as we can, and then once the Monday night game is over, we will reprice and readjust a lot of those future bets and put them out again based on what the outcomes was on the previous week. So always check the future tabs because we will update them, usually for college football on Mondays and for NFL on Tuesday mornings. We will put those out and repackage those based on what has happened.
So now that football season has really begun, and you got the pros and you got college going on, is table tennis still
got the U.S. Open and regular tennis going
well, there
on.
is regular tennis,
Yeah.
but is table tennis as popular as it was when there wasn't football?
Well, I think football has grabbed some attention from table tennis, but where table tennis is really taking off is one in the overnight hours and in the early morning hours when American sports are not in play, the off-time hours. We are still getting a lot of table tennis and tennis betting on the site, and a lot of it is quick bets in.
I think we just lost Neal there. Oh, it's too
source,
bad.
And they're making that bet, and those bets settle like within 20 minutes of the match being over. And if you do live, they are graded and settled and resulted pretty much like the flash bets are, really, really quick. So you can either cash out or rebet again with the funds that you just won.
Neal, let's leave it there. We'll probably have a tougher game for the spread next week against BYU.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
All right.
Thanks, Neal.
Bet with your head and not over it.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.